Good afternoon, everyone. Geez, did I lose everyone already? All right, let's try it again. Good morning, everybody. Awesome, thank you. My name is Friedman. I'm actually a VP of Operations here at Wallaroo. I'm going to give you a fair warning that this will be interactive. But thank you for taking time to actually come and do the session on the P&L of ML. Right? Where does actually ML provide value in the business? All right, let's get started. So, when does machine learning actually provide value? It's an actual question. Anyone can yell out. I'll take that. All right. I'll take that. When it can consistently fulfill on the business use case. And if that use case is purchase, if that use case is to make money, awesome. Sometimes it's actually cost avoidance. However, there are 3 dots there, which means there's more. This thing's not working as well as I thought. The second half of that is why it's costing less to deliver on the use case than the target value. Now, I'll define target value here in a second. But we have to actually remember, like machine learning are not applications, right? They actually have shelf lives. You have to constantly be taking care of them, right? And that's the reason the word constant. Does that make sense? Like I said, this will be interactive. Where does machine learning provide value? We have the when, now where's the where? Anyone? One more time? The use cases at scale. All right. I actually say it's in production, when you can repeatedly deploy, run, observe, and optimize. And we're going to get into why this is important in P&L in a second. Why the word repeatedly? How many people have deployed a use case once? How many people have had to deploy it multiple times? Yeah, most of the room have gotten it. So let's get into some calculator definitions. All right, so target value, right? It's basically like, hey, what do I expect to get out of this? I say it's one of the most important things when determining P&L and value. What is the business expecting to get from this? Is this a cost avoidance use case? Is it a revenue capture use case, right? Is it a market differentiator? Why are we doing this? Investments, so all the investments you make, that equals cost, right? So on a P&L balance sheet, that's going to be a loss. Now, I know that we love the term investments, right? Because it's like, ooh, we're investing. But you have to also look at it from the business point of view, which actually says, hey, that's actually a cost. And if there's a return on that investment, that's great. But until that point, it is a cost. Actual delivered value. What do you think I mean by this? I'm going to work with you all. We're going to get some answers, I promise. Yeah, delivered value is actually what it delivered, right? We have our target value. Hey, I expect to get X amount, or I expect to avoid X amount. And then we have the actual thing that it delivered. It only delivered X amount. Does that make sense? All right, guess that. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about some calculators. Everybody ready for calculators? Those are fun, right? Awesome. Profit and loss. Delivered value net minus cost. It's pretty straightforward. This is always a positive or negative. Sometimes it's equal, which is in the black, but most of the time it's either a positive financial number or a negative financial number, right? Did it actually make money? Did it actually deliver? ROI. Oh my Lord. As an IT professional, as a ops professional, we love ROIs. Who loves ROIs? How many people use this to make a decision all the freaking time? Yeah, exactly. And it's easy, right? Delivered value minus cost divided by cost, always percentage. I usually argue if it's north of 40%, we should probably investigate it. If it's north of 50%, why are we not doing this? Is that similar to people in the room? I'll take it as yes. Business value is when the P&L, right, delivered value minus cost, is equal or greater than the actual target value. Does this make sense? We having fun yet? All right. Let's use an example. All right, we've got a business use case, predictive maintenance. What kind of use case is this? Revenue capture, cost avoidance, market differentiator, cost avoidance. Yeah, Could be a market differentiator, but we'll just go with cost of funds. We want to get $1 million less in 12 months. Who wants to save $1 million, right? What business owner is not going to say, yeah, sign me up, $1 million? All right, so we have profit and loss. Man, I don't know what happened to my format of my slides, but for whatever reason, so I apologize for this. So if loss are investments and costs, what goes on the loss side? Infrastructure, people, data wrangling, ML ops tools. For this example, we're going to say that our entire investment was $750,000. Why? Because it's an easy round number and it makes it easy for me to do an example. On the profit side, we had fewer parts purchased, we had reduction of repairs, we had reduction of personnel hours. We actually ended up getting a profit side of it, or a reduction of cost of $1.2 million. Who would tell the business to say, hey, let's do this use case? Does everyone feel this is a good use case? Let's do the calculators, let's find out, all right? Profit and loss, right? So we had delivered value minus cost. We saved $500,000. Pretty good, right? Maybe? All right. So far, so good. We're in the green. ROI. Delivered value minus cost divided by cost, right? I have a 66% ROI. Who's excited about that? Yeah, I'll take that all day long. Business value. P&L minus is either equal to or greater than target value. Uh-oh. Now, question, I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Who would actually invest in this use case? Show of hands. Who would say that, you know what, we didn't hit it. I won't invest in this use case. Show of hands. Well, so we have some people like, no, I'm not committing either way. The fact of the matter is you're both right, regardless of how you feel it. The value is determined by the business. And if the business says, hey, you know what, 500,000 is enough a target, we're going to continue to invest. Let's continue to do this. All right, actually, sorry, I'll be back. So this is the win, right? This is like, hey, how do I actually calculate this? This is how do I actually take a look at these calculators? Why do you think we use these? Anyone? Yeah, the business is basically trying to understand, how do I justify this? And as ML practitioners, this is actually what's going to help you set you up for success. To be able to actually say, hey, look, this is what we're targeting. This is how we're going to look against it. This is what the ROI was. I understand we didn't hit the target value. However, we got to half of it. Are ML models consistent? Are they fire and deploy? Do they remain in production as they were trained forever? No. And so, could you justify the fact of, hey, I know we only got to 500,000 on their target value, but maybe our accuracy is only 70% or 68%, right? So there are ways you can justify it. And the business may come back and say yay or nay, but this gives you a way to have a conversation on a justification of why you do it. And that's one of the reasons you look at profit and loss. And be able to say, like, hey, when we drive value is when we can actually associate that target value to that delivered value on the P&L. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go with where. I'm going to do a little fun game here. So I'm going to show a different portion of the life cycle of ML, and you tell me whether or not it's loss or profit. I just want you to yell it out. Data infrastructure, warehousing, all your lower pieces of actually getting everything organized. Profit or loss? Yeah. Data sources, data wrangling, prep, ETL, profit or loss? Model development. Yeah, people are going to be big on it, but believe it or not, it's still a loss, right? Because you haven't actually provided the value back to the business yet. That's actually where a lot of companies are getting tripped up by, right? And I'll go into that in another slide in a second. Forget the shameless plug. Production, profit or loss? Profit. Both. I actually have to invest in order to deliver production. However, production is the only place that I start to see value. Does that make sense? Why? Because production is repeatable. It's no longer, I did this in a notebook, I did it once. It's now actually providing, the business is relying on it. The business is actually saying, hey, I need to be able to capture $500,000 in cost reductions consistently, right? Answering the original when. So this gets into a slide that I get a little passionate about. Does everybody believe this? I'm assuming so because we're in this room. But that first thing, AI has the potential to create incredible value. Who believes this? I do. I am extremely passionate about it. But if production is the only place that provides value, I am getting sick and tired of these. How many times have we who's seen this before? These numbers, right? If we're failing 90% of the time, if we're having 50% of machine learning not getting into production, a lot of it is, one, not setting business expectation on the P&L and actually business value of it. But the other side of it is we're stopping before we get to production. And that's causing us to fail on the ROI. This has to change in order for it to change the world. Does everybody agree with that? You get a little bit of like an amen or excitement a little bit? Sorry, I'm from Texas. The reason for it is these challenges, and I'm not going to read all this, but these are all your challenges when you take a look at your loss and your investments as you're looking at getting things into deployment. Is everybody, who's experiencing this? Yeah, half the room. And a lot of it is really just trying to figure out, how do I attain for this in ML ops, model development, so on and so forth. And you're hearing a lot of that statement out in the different sessions today. Right? Something to consider. Can anybody point out where the actual value for ML is on this slide? It's that little guy there. So if that's value, what's everything else? P&L. Is it profit or loss? Yeah, this is all investment. And so if you're looking at that investment, and you're looking at production, and you're looking at model development, and that's your value as your ML code, what I'm seeing is causing some of those 90% failure numbers is that this is not being cared for in your P&L calculations and your total monetary value calculations. Does that make sense? And I'll be the first to tell you that most data scientists are like, this is outside my purview. My purview is this. But understanding the relationship of all of this to your code will help you understand how do I actually see the business from the P&L value. Does that make sense? Just give you a tool so that way when you're actually talking to folks of why are we doing this, you now have easy calculators to justify. So a couple of takeaways. I'm going to harp on this, I'm going to harp on this, I'm going to harp on this. It's the word consistently. Machine learning provides value when it can consistently fulfill the business use case while costing less to deliver than the business use case is worth. Who can assign worth? The business. And so if you don't know what it is worth to the business, you can't calculate what it means in value based on the work that you're doing and how you calculate the P&L and the ROI. Does that make sense? Production environments are the only place that machine learning provides value. Plan for production in advance. How many people have started a machine learning initiative by just trying to figure out, can we actually train the model and not even thinking about what do we do after the fact? We've been guilty of it. Not at Wallaroo, but another company. Wallaroo's a vendor, that's right. That's actually my presentation. And so I'd actually just like to turn it around a little bit because I have a few minutes and just open it up for questions.
In your example, the predictive maintenance example, you came up with the initial value of the project or the target value. We talked about saving $1 million, and then I saw right here. So the business case is the 12. Where do we go from 1.2 million?
1.2 million is actually from the profit and loss side, which I'm going to have to back up a second. Right? We're basically saying when I actually calculate how much money I didn't spend, I can actually get to about 1.2 million. Right? And so some companies will actually say, well, we hit our target value without taking into effect, because again, this is calculating profit and loss, without taking into effect that it took us 750,000 to get there. So the questions everybody hears is like, how did you get like to 1.2 million? And that's actually from the combination of the cost avoidance from these different areas.
It's ironic that you use that as an example, because we have predictive maintenance technology.
Okay.
And that's what Mike's talking about. And that is the hardest number to get to with potential clients, is trying to figure out those numbers.
So I'm going to go back to my Verizon days and now we did some things there. And so what we'd actually do is actually look at all the different budgets and cost centers and actually see where exactly those costs are coming from. And if we, by deploying the model, we actually see a reduction of those costs based on what the model was able to do against those individual budgets. And so then we can target that and then calculate that forward. Now, I will be clear, you can't get into splitting hairs very quickly on, was it the model or was it, Bob figured out a better way of doing it, right? Or did long as hours. So in that, you actually have to let finance determine that number. And again, and let the business determine, hey, and this is one of the conversations I have on front. If my target value is 1 million, I'm going to track it, right? And the other question I'd be asking is, why 1 million? Only the business can answer it. Only the business can track it. Only the business can say the justification of it. However, what this gives to you for actually practitioners of machine learning is a way to say, hey, this is what my guidepost is. This is what we're going towards. This is how we manage it, and this is how I track the use and everything that I'm doing back to it. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
As far as target value just isn't a very useful metric. So something like minimum cyclical ROI is better.
The issue that I have with ROI is it's basically saying how much of return am I getting on the investment without basically taking into account what was I expecting to get. Right? And so one of the projects that we took on previously, I actually took on, we actually showed that we could actually get north of a 60% ROI. But then when we actually started looking at what we were expecting to save, actually not what we were expecting to actually increase in revenue, was only half, even though that the ROI was positive. And so the reason that I say you have to have those two calculators is really because, like, if you don't have this bottom one, these two are positive. That bottom one, you're going to have someone that still hits the budget and go like, yeah, I didn't actually provide me value.
So, who sets the target value? How do you know the target value?
One more time.
So, who sets the target value?
The business.
How do you know this reason?
So that is where it gets into a discussion between your chief data officer or whoever owns the ML within the organization and the business. If they come to me and say, hey, look, I'm willing to finance this, if I can achieve this, then there needs to be a conversation of like, okay, how achievable is it? And that's why when I got back down to the, hey, it's 500,000, good enough. Sorry, I'm in the wrong direction. Is 500,000 good enough? That's where the conversation between the business and technology needs to happen, right? Because it's like, hey, maybe 1 million wasn't realistic, right? And this is reality. And then the question comes in is, it's like, can we get closer to that, or is that the best we can do? Sir?
If you have multiple use cases, how do you prioritize every solution? Because like, one is an ROI evaluation, what would you know
My experience, this is going to sound funny. In my experience, the ones that make money are prioritized over the ones that save money, right? And so if I've got 5 use cases, right, and only one of them is actually going to, so I use dynamic pricing. And dynamic pricing is going to do a capture of $1 million. That's going to be higher than avoidance of $1 million, right? If I got 4 that's an avoidance of $1 million, then it's the closest enough TV of like which one is more priority. One thing that we didn't talk about though is like the strategic marketplace value, right? And so depending on what your business is, maybe just doing the predictive maintenance gives you an edge that allows for you to do more revenue capture. How am I doing on time?
We have time for one more question.
One more question. Sir?
I was surprised to not see time represented
So I ended up deleting about 4 slides on that, just because I didn't think I'd have time. Let's make for assumption that you've never done this before, and so you're trying to do this for the first time. This calculator is to calculate for that. If you're going for the, like, all right, 500,000 is enough, let's do it again, you would come up with a new TB, and you would actually do the time scenario again based on 12 months, 6 months, whatever you think it is. But you're correct, time actually has a value, and that's why I put 12 months on there. But if once you deliver this, then the question is, how do I improve on it? This is always going to be an error sliding scale, and there's all sorts of P and A kind of scenarios and whatnot you can go about this. This gives you kind of like the basics of that. Like, you didn't want to do the full financial course. Does that make sense? That time actually has a value. This is actually the first time that you go after it. When you go after it again, you have to adjust for that. Do I have one more? All right.
Quick question, am I correct in assuming that the 12-month calendar starts once the code is in production?
No, the 12-month calendar starts when you kick off the project.
Okay. So that includes code?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to, because that's how you're calculating your loss and your investment.